Okay, I swear to God, I think I have a ghost in this. I think it's in this camera because every time I film, I have a full on new battery, fully charged, and then everything's fine, and then I start talking, and then it just. Okay, my name is Marcy. I just took a second to kind of just wrap around what I just happened because I started talking and then my camera just shut down. Okay, so my name is Marcy. I have PCOS. I've been married and divorced. I had a weight loss surgery. I love makeup and I love to just chit chat. So if you're into all those things, come along. Welcome to the club. Subscribe, like, comment, share, whatever you gotta do. I'm trying to make it somewhat big to be able to get my mom and me and myself, both of us, out of our job that we're in because we clean houses and I just don't want us to keep doing that. I want us to be able, I want to have my mom be able to retire and relax and chill and then me just make videos. So if you can help me out, that would be awesome. Okay, so I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I have no fucking idea. I kind of just did this spur at the moment. It's been in my head for a minute and I'm a Virgo and that means that I kind of want to get it done before like it drives me crazy. So I around 11, I want to say 11, 12 is when I started to kind of notice that my periods were not normal. Okay. Back in the day, doctors didn't really know what PCOS was. And I think doctors to this day don't really know what PCOS is and they don't really know a cure for it, which sucks. So if you do have PCOS, I am so sorry. I know how it feels and it sucks and it's annoying and it's like a disease that you just want to get answers from, but you just don't because there's not a lot out there. I feel like it's getting better. People are more talking about it and great, great. But back in the day when I found out, what year was it? I don't fucking remember, to tell you the truth. It was such a long time ago that I just don't remember. So I'm trying to I'm gonna try to figure out little pieces. I may be all over the place, but that's just me. I'm sorry. I love to talk and I love to give as much details as I can. But anyways, so around that time, I realized I had been on my period for about a year or so, and I realized that a lot of things that my friends were going through, I wasn't going through. My periods were really, really irregular, really painful, to the point where I would not be able to go to school for a week, the week of me having my cycle. And so me and my mom decided to go to the doctor and talk to him about it. And so he did some blood work and it came out that I have a huge, and I mean huge, huge, huge hormone issue. He said, I don't want to give you hormones, like strong drug hormones just yet because you're still growing, but we can try with birth control. So at the age of 11, 12, I was put on hormones. I tried different kinds and I was losing weight, gaining weight, losing, like back and forth. It was so annoying and I was so frustrated. And this is when I think me realizing that like I wasn't gonna be ever really skinny. Like this is when I realized, and it's terrible because growing up I watched, Tyra Banks show and America's Next Top Model and The Real World, and everyone was just so skinny and it's like I wanted to be that. And I knew that like this is when I knew at such a young age that I wasn't gonna be a skinny Latina, and I felt like I also had the pressure from my mom to be skinny, and And it just, I felt like I was getting the pressure from everywhere to just, you know, look a certain way. And yeah. So after about a year or two of being on multiple different birth controls, and I mean, I was trying them for 3 months to figure out if I liked them, but nothing really helped. Which, let me tell you, sucked. It sucked knowing that I had this issue and there was no medication for me. And I felt like I was the only one going through this. And maybe at the time I was, but I'm pretty sure there were pretty much out there women that were dealing with something similar. So I just felt like I was literally losing my fucking mind and no one knew. And it was the most annoying shit. And the reason why I was losing my mind is because I was taking the medicine that's supposed to help me feel better, and I didn't feel better. I think through my whole time of being with hormones, I was the most saddest, I think, ever in my entire life. I was very depressed and just, you know, it felt like I became, for myself, a science project. Me trying to figure out. And I want you guys to understand, like, this time Google wasn't really around, and you know, like, internet was just now starting, and I didn't have a computer, so it's not like I could have done research, and I didn't want to look up, you know, hormone issues in my library, you know. So I kind of just was like in the loop trying to figure out, like, what can I do? So was my mom. And I was not diagnosed with PCOS. At that time, it was just a hormone issue. So then after 1 or 2 years of being on birth control, my doctor said, okay, well, you know, it's not working. So I think it's time for us to go a different route, which was taking female hormones. And let me tell you, that was a whole different fucking journey. That was years of me taking really strong hormones to control my hormone levels because they were so bad. I mean, I'm talking about bad to the point where it was kind of concerning for everyone in the room, if you know what I mean. So we, you know, I was still going in to do blood work to figure out, like, that's how we knew that birth controls were just not working for me, was I would take blood work and it would just show up the same. And so, and it shouldn't have been that way. It should have made a little bit of a difference, but it didn't for my case, which made my case a little bit more complicated for my doctor. Okay. So let me adjust this a little bit. So I think that's a little better. So, my doctor at that time was dealing with some, like, ownership problems. So, he was not the owner of the clinic that he worked at. He was just an employee and everything. But the owner and him had ended up getting a fight. And not physical fight, but just, I don't really know what went down, but we went one day for a checkup to see, you know, how my hormones were doing, and we didn't see him. And I think he couldn't reach out to us until like a year. I think that's pretty common within, like, the doctors and like their contracts is, like, once they leave, they cannot keep, you know, they cannot reach to their clients. So we had no idea that this had happened or anything. So we met a new doctor, and it was a woman, and I was like, great, you know, Latina and everything. So she took blood work for me, and she called me back and she said, I need you to come back. We need to have a serious conversation. And at this point, I think I was like maybe like 18 around that time. So between 11 and 12 to 18, I was on birth control. I was on and off birth controls. And it was just crazy, to tell you. It was just crazy. And I felt like I couldn't talk to my friends about it because they wouldn't understand. And so it was more of like a me, my doctor, and my mom conversation. I didn't tell my dad. I felt like he didn't need to know. He was already a dickhead before then, so he didn't care if I was fucking dying or not. So, sad but true. So, she says, I need you to go to a specialist because I can't help you. Like, and when she said that, when a doctor tells you, I can't help you, I think it's one of the worst feelings in the world, knowing that you have an issue, a problem, whatever, and a person who went to school for such a long time does not know. And I'm not saying like every doctor should know everything, but it just, you know, I was a kid and I didn't freaking know, you know, like I was just like, what? Like, how do you not know? Sorry, my light, my light turned off. Okay, so she sent me to a hospital, okay? So she recommended a hormone specialist, which are not very common at that time. And I'm pretty sure now they are common, but they weren't very common at that time. So he was actually like different types of doctor. He was like a diabetic doctor, and he was also a hormone and then cancer. So he like majored in those three. So I go in, he has my blood work, he's rechecking it with me, and me and my mom and him are in, you know, the clinic, hospital clinic. And he asked my mom to leave. And that was my first time ever dealing with a doctor by myself, and it was very, very scary, just because like Latina moms are always with us. Even if we're like in our 50s, our moms are just always with us. So me not having my mom there was a little scary, but I realized like I was 18, so like I was an adult, whatever. So he starts asking me just random questions. Have I been sexually active? And have I ever felt anything weird when I was like growing, you know? What age did my boobs grow? Like just basic hormonal questions, you know, when did I start my period and all that stuff. And then it got to the point where he was like just writing down, you know, my answers and everything. And he says, well, once we looked at your paperwork, I'm shocked that you were fully born a woman. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what? And he said, well, your paperwork would be a file for a man. It would not be a file for a woman. And he said, I want to take a full-on check of your private parts to see if maybe there was any type of, you know, anything that points out to me that maybe you were somewhat maybe developing as a man and then things just turned around. And that freaked the shit out of me. I was like, what? I was supposed to be a boy? So I'm not a transgender, okay? I'm a fully woman. But I had to get fully naked. He checked my breasts to see if if there was something any weird going on between my breasts. And then he pointed out, so I do have on my left, your right breast, next to it, armpit. People call it like armpit fat, whatever. And I always was really just concerned because like I don't have it on this side. I only have it on this side. And he literally said this could be a third breast that tried to develop but never fully did. I'm planning on getting it removed. I then was told by another doctor that it was just stubborn fat. So I don't know what it is. Okay, I don't know. I wish I knew. But I think if I get it removed, I will find out like what it is. If it was supposed to be a third breast or if it's just stubborn fat that just wants to live there. But, and then he checked, like my hands and, he just fully checked me. I mean, head to toe, wanted to make sure that what he was reading on the document, like paper stuff and what he was seeing in me were all the same thing, because I'm pretty sure he was confused as fuck just as much as I was. So then he goes down to my cookie and he starts checking everything, and he, you know, has to do an ultrasound to see how my ovaries are. I mean, it was just so much going on at the same time. So he then tells me, get dressed up and we will keep talking. Calls my mom, tells my mom what just happened, you know, and my mom wasn't concerned or anything. This is normal, you know, and if a doctor needs to see you fully naked, that's just what it is, you know. Now, he did not cross the line with me. He didn't do anything appropriate, you know, nothing like that. My mom did ask me, you know, but pretty much says that I was born a fully developed woman, but my hormones are so out of control that he had never seen that before, and he wanted to kind of do something to maybe control the hormones. He says, I'm going to set up an appointment for you. You are going to be off your medication for 6 months. And then after those 6 months, you are going to come. Okay, so he said, no. Now I'm going back. We're going to do blood work today at the Center of Cancer. I know. So he came with us. He took us all the way to the cancer area, and they did my blood work, and they just gave me like a higher doses of what I was taking. Since I was already taking the medication, we need to now experience if I took a higher doses of the medication I was already taking, if it was going to change my blood work or if it was going to be the same. So I took the shot and then came home, and I had to take double of the medication that I was already taking. And let me tell you, the original doses that I was taking of this medication was already driving me nuts. I had to take it twice a day, morning and night, with food, because it was so strong. It was a drug, pretty much a hormone drug. And I would be cold all the fucking time. I would be in Georgia weather, summertime, in hoodies. It was wild. I was sad, depressed. I felt like I was just not myself. The way I was thinking was not myself, and it drove me insane. But I didn't say anything to no one because, one, I was scared, and two, I just didn't know who to talk to about these things. I could have easily talked to my mom, but I was like, I don't want my mom to feel bad for me, because she was already feeling horrible that I was like dealing with all this crap, that I just didn't know who to talk to. I kept it to myself. Thankfully, from a very young age, I started writing on journals. It's just something that I like to do and enjoy. And I felt like that really truly saved me at those times where like I felt like I was a little bit thinking of maybe not being alive anymore. And it was really sad. Like, it was horrible. I don't recommend it for no one. I would cry at night. I felt like there was no point of me being here. And it was really, really sad that I was so young dealing with I was dealing with all this crap and I didn't know who to turn to. Then, we went back, and let me tell you, those exam area, like where I had to do the cancer stuff, it was just so sad also to walk in there, because everyone in there were like, you know, they were dealing with type of treatment for their cancer. So I had to be in a room full of people that were dealing with something so horrible. And it made me kind of think of my grandmother, because my grandmother died from cancer. And it like just, it was just so sad that time in my life. I was just so sad. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to hang out with it. I really isolated myself to just me and my mom. And it became, I would like to say, the saddest time in my life. I was also now informed that me becoming a mother were like zero. You know, I was informed when I was like 11 or 12 that the chances of me being a mom was going to be very, very difficult. But now at this time, the chances of me becoming a mom would be slim. Like there was literally like a miracle would happen if I got pregnant. So, I then had to go back after 6 months to get another blood work. And we needed to see if me taking a higher doses did anything. And it didn't. My blood work was still the same, still crazy. So he said, you know what? You need to decide what you want to do. Do you want to keep taking these hormones even they're not doing anything for you? There's nothing else we can really do. There's no other, like, there's no higher doses at that time to give you for your age. Or do you want to just stop treatment altogether? I told him that I was going to think about it, never went back, never went to go do more blood work. I just left it there and I stopped. You know, I didn't stop taking because I actually kept taking it until I was like 21, 22 years old. But I was taking my regular doses that my doctor had given me. At this point, we still haven't found our doctor. My doctor who's been seeing me since I was like 8. So I kind of just left it there, right? And then I think I ran out of the medicine when I was like, I'm trying to think when I ran out of the medicine. I don't remember. But I remember right when we kind of like when I was like starting to run out of my medication is when we actually found my doctor. He was being interviewed on the news and I was like, wait, what? And so we found his location. We called him and I made an appointment because I was losing my mind. I didn't know what the fuck was going on with me. And I was more comfortable with him. He knew my history and everything. So we go down there. He is an hour away from where we live. So we did the drive and he immediately just said, you know, how are you feeling? You know, have you been able to like do anything? And I take him the paperwork of all the blood tests that I've been taking since I haven't seen him. And he says, well, I don't know what to tell you. You can either keep on taking the drugs and just hope that it will change, or just let it be. So I kept taking the medication. And around 21, 22, I was in a very unhealthy relationship. I don't really like to call it a relationship, but I guess it would be a relationship. It was a very kind of like, we messed around on the weekends and then during the week we did not communicate, we did not talk or anything. And there was sexual involved. At that time in my life, I didn't care for a condom. I'm just going to be honest with you because I just knew I wasn't going to be able to have a kid, you know? So I was like, what's the point? What's the point of having a, you know? I was still taking the drugs and everything. And your girl ended up getting pregnant. And finding out was a shock. I cried. I was not happy. Okay. I was not happy because I thought in my head, I was like, okay, I'm not having a kid ever. So, and I was okay with it, you know, and I was a little far along. Let's just say when he did the blood work, because I took pregnancy tests and I kept saying negative. And then, what my mom was like, something's wrong. Like you're not, like something's wrong. Like something's wrong with your health. And, because I was having like morning sickness and all stuff, and he did the blood work and it came out positive real quick. And he wrote me a letter that I was pregnant, because I think that's what you're supposed to do. And he told me, like, he told my mom to leave. And he asked me, what do you want to do? Do you want to have this kid or do you not want to have a kid? And so I started asking every question in the book. What are the chances of this kid living? What are the chances? And he's like, the risks are really high. With you taking that drug, anything can happen. Anything bad can happen, pretty much. He says, you know, the drug is in your system, so it's definitely in the kid's system and the baby's system. And you may not, the baby may not even make it to full term. You may die in the process of labor and just, you know, horrible things. And I just was like, I'm so young. I don't want my mom to bury me. I don't want my mom to have to bury two people at the same time, because there is a chance that the baby could be born and die, and then I can give labor and die. So there was a lot of death in this time, like the time that it was. And so I asked him to give me information for an abortion. And if you support abortion, good for you. If you don't, and you don't want to hear the rest of this, I'm okay. But at the time that I was in, I felt like my only choice was an abortion. And it was not an easy decision to make. I felt like I had failed in life. And I was even more depressed than before. I did have an abortion, and I will speak on it. I will not hide. My mom likes to hide that from a lot of people. I really don't care. It was part of my story. I've come to the conclusion that it was meant to happen for me, and I'm okay with that. Was it my proudest moment? No. Do I recommend this situation to anyone? No. It is a horrible situation to be. But I was grateful that at the time that this decision was made, I was not in a situation where I had to go to a different state to get this done. I'm glad that I was able to do it when I did. Then, after that situation, I made the choice to not take the medication anymore. Me and this person ended things. I ended up blocking him. Actually, no, I did not block him, but I blocked him from social media. But he was still able to communicate with me because he was still keeping in touch, just trying to make sure that I was fine and everything, which I was really grateful. You know, he was really nice about that whole situation. But then I started dating my ex-husband, and that situation was another just crazy situation. I never really told him all this stuff. He knew about the abortion, and I felt like that was, you know, I feel like being honest about stuff like that is important. He was okay with the fact that I had done that. He said, you know, it's your choice. I didn't know you, so I couldn't, I can't judge you for something that you did, for your own health. I can't. So I was really grateful that he was nice about it. But this is when I started making sure that every time we were sexual, he had a condom. I wasn't on birth control. I did have a AT, if you know what I mean. And I only had that because it was the only thing that could control some of my cramping and some of my heaviness of when I had my cycle. And it was the only thing that was able to get my period a little bit, back to just regular. I still had periods for 7 days, but they were constant. Like, they were at the time, obviously it would change here and there, but it wasn't like I sometimes would have my period like back to back in the same month. And it was just crazy. So this was the only thing that really helped. it didn't like fully help me with everything, but it did give me a little bit of more relief that I was that it was normal. So I'm gonna leave it there. I will do another part and etc. Because this all ties up to me having weight loss, and I feel like I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna lie. But women who are dealing with PCOS, it sucks. I'm so sorry. I'm glad that it's being more talked about, and I'm glad that like things are being done to help this situation. But like, it's so complicated that it's like you don't know what to think and you don't know who to tell and everything. So just know that I've also dealt with that myself, and you're not the only one who's dealing with this crappy situation. But yeah, there will be more to the story because my story sadly doesn't end here. It ends so much more and deep into it. But yeah, I felt like I needed to be honest and tell you guys, like, I do have PCOS, and you know, I've been taking hormones on and off since I was like 11 or 12 years old, and it's such a fucked up situation to be in that I wish there was a solution for this, but I know it's going to take a minute because I feel like just now people are talking about it and speaking about it, and you know, medications and supplements are coming out to like help us. But you know, for a very long time I was kind of like just stuck, and I'm like am I a science experience to the doctor, like to the doctor world? Because I feel like everyone I talked to, which was a few people, a few doctors, they weren't really giving me much information, and it was such an annoying situation to be in. Like, I was frustrated, my mom was frustrated. I eventually had to tell my dad. I guess I will tell this story. So when I went to go take the blood work to figure out like my all that stuff at the cancer thing, labs, whatever, clinic, whatever, my bill came back and it was so expensive. It was like over $18,000, and that was back in the day. And I was illegal at that time, and I didn't, you know, illegals don't have health care. And I called my dad for help, and he said no. So it was really tough. Like, I remember I cried a lot for many years, just feeling like I wasn't enough of a woman. But I was like, but I'm also not a man. Like, I felt like fucking Frankenstein. I felt like I was fucking Frankenstein. Like, I just felt like I wasn't a human, even though I am a human, you know? It was really annoying. I felt like I couldn't talk to no one about it. It was just so fucking frustrating. And I hope doctors are being more nice about the situation with anything that involves hormones. Because I've heard some horrible stuff about women dealing with menopause and how doctors just don't fucking give you what you need. And I'm like, we're already as women dealing with so much crap, and you don't want to help a woman out when they're going through premenopause or menopause. Like, I don't understand people. I truly don't understand. Like, I feel like doctors and nurses need to be, you know, they're doing it to help us out, the ones that are trying to figure out like if this is okay or not, you know. And I'm talking about general everybody. You know, when you go to see a doctor, you're not going because you're gonna say, hey, what's up, I'm just here for some labs. You're there because you feel like shit and you're trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong. But yeah, I hope that doctors are being more sensitive with us, because it's, you know, I remember just being such a kid and I'm trying to figure out like what, like I would leave my doctor's office so confused and I didn't understand anything. And thankfully, I was able to email like the clinic where I got all this done, and I said, hey, I don't have a job. I just got out of high school. I'm an illegal, so I don't have health care and I can't have health care. And they were able to pay it off, you know. And I have not had any type of treatment since then, nor blood work. I don't want to know. I understand my body and I know when my hormones are all over the place and etc. So this is part 1 of my PCOS fucking story. I know it's a long one, but I'm sorry. But like, I just felt like I needed to get this off my chest. I don't know why. Maybe it will help somebody out and maybe it will help them feel, you know, maybe like they're not just the only person dealing with this crap that PCOS is. And there's different levels of people that have PCOS. Like some people have really, really high side effects from PCOS and some people just have it very light. I just happened to have it really heavy at that time when I was dealing with all that crap. And yeah, so peace out, take care, and just know that I will always be honest with you. I will never hide anything. And I think that's the beauty of, you know, being honest with everybody, is just saying the truth and letting know like, hey, like this happened to me and you're not the only person who's dealing with this crap. And I'm also going to do another video talking about my learning disability, because I also have that. I'm just fucking like, just my luck, right? PCOS, hormone issues, learning disabilities, shit, like, I'm just a golden kid, y'all. So, peace out, take care, see you guys in the next one.